All right, guys, so here is the wet and dry wet setup. We're going to go through the signal chain, and again, I just want to clarify that this is not that hard, and also that my camera skills are probably going to be lacking, so we're going to try to do our absolute best. We're going to explain this thoroughly. We're going to try to make this short, and again, this is just specifically for this setup. Okay, so what you see here is what you are going to need. Um, Obviously, there's some things that you may not need, but we are going to just again show you my signal path, what I have done, and then in part 3, you will actually get to hear the sound clips of what this rig sounds like. And yeah, so again, what you're going to need is you're going to need your 1 amp head. Okay, and again, this is no particular order. You're going to need an amp head, your power amp, signal splitter, 3 cabinets, probably a power strip because you have to plug in all this stuff. You're going to need your pedals. You're going to need dry pedals, wet pedals, and the other things I'd mentioned before that you might need, or to keep in mind is, a pedal board. You don't have to have it, but it does make things easier, especially if you're gigging and you go travel and this and that. I can actually break down my pedal board maybe in the future as far as how to build one, what to do, or things I would suggest. Yeah, so you just need your guitar or guitars, but yeah, real simple. So let's go ahead and just dive in now to exactly what the signal path is. I'm going to try not to say as much, but I got it pretty much dummy proof. I do have it labeled and tagged for simplicity for you guys as well, and myself, to keep myself accountable here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just get into this, okay? So, it's going to go from your guitar. Aha. That is going to go over here. Let me get down to our tuner. Zoom in a little bit. Goes from the tuner, okay, into our 10-band EQ, which is going into our volume pedal, which is going into our wah, which is going into the looper. For those of you who don't know what a looper is, it's just basically a bunch of pedals plugged into this, and instead of me now having to stomp on individual pedals to activate them, they're always on, and now the main switch becomes these switches. So it's going to make your pedals last a lot longer. I love loopers, especially like the MIDI ones that you can program for presets and this and that. I'm not that fancy, but this is just straightforward. I can engage pedals as I need them. So again, we're going tuner, EQ, volume pedal, wah, and then into the looper. So then it goes phaser, flanger, my AC compressor, my TS9 Ibanez, my La Machine fuzz pedal, my octave just because Eddie had one, into my analog chorus. Now, all of those are my dry effects, meaning that those effects are what's going into the front of the amp. Okay, so all these are all connected. It's actually coming out of here, out of my looper. As you can see, I have a tag here, pedal, front. So it's going from the looper, okay, into the input of the amp, okay? So again, this is my dry signal. That is my dry setup, okay? Now, it will always be a dry signal because it's my dry cabinet, but obviously, technically, when I engage one of these pedals, it kind of somewhat becomes a wet signal, but that's not what wet, dry, wet is, okay? I just want to say without a technicality, so you're like, well, Kyle, you engaged that pedal, so now it's now wet. Technically, you're right, but again, we have wet, dry, wet, okay? So this is our dry signal, all right? Again, if you want to know what wet, dry is, please go watch part 1. So, now, it's going into the front of the amp, okay? So that's going to be our input there. So now it's going from the back of the amp, okay, Let's take a look at the back of the amp here. We're going to try to do this without killing ourselves and or you. Okay, so let's see here. So it's going now through the speaker out. Okay, it's coming from the speaker out, and I'm not going to follow this cord all the way, but that is now going into our Brough box, which is our signal splitter. So it's going into this part right here. As you can see, amp out. So the amp out of the back is coming around and going into our signal splitter, which is in here, which is why, again, I just have tape here to mark it for you guys, okay? So green to green, you know, this and that. But it's going from the amp out into here, okay? Now what it's doing is going to be splitting the signal. So we have to go from our amp out, which is going to have all of our dry effects, all of our dry sound. It's coming through the speaker through, because it's going into another speaker, and it's going out of here, as you can see, into the dry cabinet. So it's going to kind of come down here and then into our 2x12, okay? Which is, again, right here. So that is our dry signal. Then, okay, it's going to come out of the line out right here, okay? It says line out. It's coming out of the Brough box on the top. And then that's actually going to go now into our wet effects. So that's going to go in here to my Eventide H9. From this point, we're now going to go stereo. Again, listen to part 1 if you know what stereo is. But it's real simple. You have a right and left connection here on all of these pedals. So you just literally just connect right to right, left to left, right to right, left to left, so on, okay? So that's going from the H9 splitting stereo into our EVH Boss SDE 3000. This thing is amazing. Still playing with it though. But again, stereo out into right and left here of our Big Sky reverb, one of my favorite reverbs. Again, we can deep dive in this pedal board in another video if you guys want, just ask. And then, oopsie, oh, sorry, I don't know what I just did. I'll play with it later. I don't know what it did, but either way. So then it's going to go from there. As you can see, we have our right out and our left out, okay? So this is where the power amp comes into play. So it's coming left and right out, okay? And then it's going to go into the back of our power amp, okay? Which is going to connect right here, right and left, okay? So it's going to go right and left in there. And then that's our wet signal going into the power amp. And now the power amp is going to split the signal from there, which you're going to see right here. You are going to need these 2 adapters here. It's these 2-pronged adapters that actually go into the this power amp here, which is the Rockville RPA 5. It's basically essentially used for like DJ equipment, but it's going to go out left and right here. So it's going to go left cabinet into our left cabinet, and then it's going to go right out into the back of this one, which is our right cabinet, okay? Now with the Brough box, why you see this knob here is because I can actually adjust the effects to go from 0 all the way up to 100% wet. So it's how much of an effect I want, not volume, but how much of the effect. So it's running 100% wet because it just sounds amazing. Now with the power amp, okay, and for those of you who want to steal my settings for EVH sounds, there you go. But you have these 2 right here, which is for your left and your right, and those are essentially just volume knobs, okay? It's got decibels, you know, -8, 10, whatever, and you can go in between. It's not like they're notches when you turn these things. It's not like click, click, click. It's just a dial, so it turns freely. But again, that's your effect volume for your left and right cabinet. And now I feel like I'm going to throw up for being hunched over for so long. That's really that's it, guys. I mean, that is the signal path. The only other additional thing you might see is this right here. That's to just switch the channel on my amp. As you can see, the color change to go from clean to dirty. Yeah, so I'm going to keep this one short, but that is literally the signal path verbatim on how you do this. You know, you can see the brands of everything down here, but you just need 3 cabinets. I would suggest 1x12s. Speakers do make a huge difference, so make sure that they're good speakers, good high-quality speakers. Really going to make your amp sound even better. But we are using the PV6505 for this. Again, you can see why this looks different, and it doesn't say 6505. And then that's our Rockville RPA 5, in case you want to do this exact. And then we have our Brough box, which is our line splitter. Okay. Other than that, you know, you guys can see the pedal board one last time. And there you go. That's it, guys. So thanks for watching. If you have questions, feel free to let me know. I try to go in that and make it as simple as possible, and labeled everything, and especially for myself, in case we ever have to disconnect this and move again, then we can go, you know, just really connect it right back. But we'll review this in probably part 4. I'll kind of deep dive into settings and this and that, and help you guys to achieve this sound. If you were to get, you know, this exact stuff, you don't have to, but just kind of give you even a idea of the ballpark range. So anyway, thanks for watching. Until part 3, stay tuned.